Hi, I'm Justin Shelley, and I was just on the Smarter Online Safety podcast with Jocelyn King. Fantastic episode, and we talked about how to keep ourselves safe, our grandparents and parents safe. We talked about how to keep our kids safe, and then we dove in a little bit to businesses, how to keep you safe from the bad guys, the government, and the lawyers.
Hello and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Podcast. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, and I am super excited to be here today. We have an amazing guest for you. Justin Shelley is the CEO and president of Phoenix IT Advisors in Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as Austin, Salt Lake City, and parts of Nevada. And he has been in love with technology since his father brought home an Apple IIe when he was just 12 years old. But more than technology, Justin loves the world of business and entrepreneurship. And as a child, he watched his parents struggle and eventually lose their first business. So today, his passion is helping his clients leverage technology to build their businesses and keep them secure, with the ultimate goal of preventing them from losing everything in the event of a cyber attack. And that's why he's a perfect guest for this show. He's also outside of work, he's an avid marathoner. He's a Harley Davidson rider. He's a classic car hobbyist, and I think you're working on a 1986 Firebird, if I recall.
Yeah, at the moment.
That's awesome. He's also a drone enthusiast and a family man. And that is great because we're going to talk about, we've talked about drones on the show before and the surveillance that they can do and privacy related issues. So we're going to get into talking about that as well. But it is such a pleasure to have you. Welcome to our show, Justin.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun to be here.
Awesome. So, Justin, many professionals and consultants out there are either cybersecurity or IT. In fact, I have a fair number of IT people come to my trainings just to catch up on, cyber trends and how to protect individuals, right? So, since
Right.
you're both, what are the main differences between IT and cybersecurity for our audience out there? A lot of them, don't work on that side of the house, and they'd love to know what are the nuances and the difference, and how do they work together? And what do you do? That is different from other IT consultants since you're both.
That is a great question. I'll tell you. So it's muddy waters. I'm not going to lie. And let me tell you my story first, quickly,
Please.
and then we'll get into kind of the nuances of what you asked. I'm a computer guy. Like you mentioned, my dad brought home an Apple IIe back in the 1980s. I loved to tear that thing apart, put sound cards and modems in it, and connect, and I could dial up and talk to other computers, and it was just fascinating to me. And that's where my love and my passion was. That was at 12. I continued tinkering with computers until I got into this professionally. I had a job with somebody else. They're hiring me out at $85 an hour and paying me $8 an hour. And I'm like, I don't have to put up with that nonsense. So I started my own business. And then I quickly realized, by the way, why they were doing that. A harsh lesson in business economics.
Yeah.
But what really happened, Jocelyn, is that as a computer tech, as I saw myself, an IT guy, as it kind of developed and evolved, um, I got forced into the world of cybersecurity when a client called me up on a Friday afternoon and said, "Hey, uh, we have ransomware." Now, my initial reaction to that was no problem. We've got solid backups in place. We can come down. We can restore. You're going to be good to go. Don't stress this. We did exactly what we said. Everything went flawless until we got back to the office. Well, before we had even made it back to the office from going down and rescuing the client, we had our capes on. We thought we were so cool, and we on our way back, we get another phone call that says, "Hey, it's back. The ransomware is back." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So it turns out that the bad guys had been in
So
that
just so
network.
people following along at home, you restored. So you basically
Correct.
stored everything from the
Fixed it.
backups
Yep.
prior to the ransomware going live. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, we restored and got everything back up and running and thought we were good. But the problem is our backups that had been running for months and months were actually backing up infected files. So when we restored those infected files, the bad guys just had instant access again.
Right. So
What
somewhere had been sitting like a contagion for
right.
for those months and months.
Right, right. So we didn't have a backup that we could actually restore. So I mean, it's a longer story than that. But what I'll tell you is it was that key pivotal moment where I realized I was not an IT guy. I was not a computer repair guy. I was thrust into the world of cybersecurity. So
Wow.
you kind of have the option where you can just fix stuff. Um, and you either have to be really honest with your clients and tell them that you're not into the world of cybersecurity, or you have to transition and be a cybersecurity expert. The problem is, and this is a little peek behind the scenes in the world of IT, most of our clients think that we do it all and do it all well. In fact,
And
when
when you say we,
somebody
you mean the entire IT
the
consulting.
IT industry. So it's very fuzzy because you're like, hey, there's IT guys and there's cybersecurity specialists.
Mhm.
True. But we don't always present that way to our clients. So most IT companies claim to be cybersecurity specialists. The problem is there is no authority behind that. There's no controlling licensing board. There's no regulatory agency, nothing. I can tell you I'm a cybersecurity expert, believe it or not. Pay me or don't, but it's on you,
And
the
maybe,
consumer.
so you could hire an IT consultant who says that they're an IT, a cyber expert, and maybe they read a book. And then you could have others who actually, they're a white hat hacker on the side. They really are legitimate, and you can't really tell the difference between the two unless, without knowing more, correct?
Absolutely right. And yet it's still on you as the business owner or the consumer to make
Mhm.
that determination. So it's really a tough world to live in.
Right, right. So do you end up getting clients coming into you who had some kind of IT support, but no cyber, and now they've encountered a bad situation, or they come to you because they realize, news items or whatever that they need greater cyber experience. Because it was what do you it kind of ties into what you're seeing as the trends as well. But like what you must have people come into you who are have a heightened fear of what's going on
I
out
wish. I wish that was true. What I'll be honest, what people usually come to us saying is when I call for support, my IT guy doesn't respond fast enough.
there. Okay.
So the biggest problem when you're asking about trends in the industry, the biggest problem is we aren't as a society really taking it as seriously as we should.
Yes, that's
Both the consumer, the business owner, and even the IT consultant who claims to be a cybersecurity expert.
right. My audience keeps hearing the theme of there's cyber warfare going on every day, even though we are at a country at peace from a military perspective. And it's hard to think about the fact that there is this ongoing war.
Right.
People don't realize their individuals are getting hundreds of attacks against them every day, if not thousands, and companies are getting thousands, if not tens of thousands every day, because it's all automated. So you're dealing with people in small businesses that don't even know that that's going on, or that they don't know that they need protection. And
I,
you're
generally speaking, yes. So it's one of two. It's
Mhm.
either that or they have had some sort of a breach. So you said, they're watching the news, they're paying attention, and I wish that was the truth behind it. But generally speaking, they've either had a breach or they just think that their IT company's too slow. Those are the two reasons that people will come to us.
Right, right. Okay. Interesting, interesting. So kind of going into the trends part then, what are you seeing as the trends? I want to bring this in full cycle to the fact that even with all the existing technology and people understanding, IT and computers and networks and internet and running businesses and personal home networks that way, people are obviously fully aware that AI is changing the world, but catching up on the fact that AI is helping, cyber criminals and hackers and cybercrime gangs dramatically. So what are you seeing from a cybersecurity and IT business around how, AI and technology are coming together against people?
Yeah, I mean that is the trend right now. Everything is AI. It's the new shiny penny. It's what everybody wants to talk about. It's fun. It's exciting. There's
Mhm.
benefits to it. There's fears behind it. Um, the biggest challenge that I see right now in just putting on my business owner hat, or and I believe most of your audience is consumers, just average people, right?
Right.
Um, the problem is that we're so focused and excited about the new shiny penny, which we call AI, that it's actually taking away. So I said the biggest problem that I have is people don't natively think about cybersecurity,
Mhm.
and that's actually getting worse. So as
Mm.
we shift our focus over here to this really cool new toy that we have, we're getting farther and farther away from the dialogue of, yeah, but we're all being attacked all the time, like you just mentioned. So that's the trend that scares me the most, even though it's also the trend that excites me and it is fun. I'll be honest, AI has changed my life in the last few months. I do everything with AI,
Yeah.
um, but it is something we have to constantly remind ourselves that we've got to stay focused on protecting our assets, whatever those are, whether that's a business, whether it's a home, whether it's um, our children, our grandparents. The threats are everywhere, and we have to stay focused on that.
So we talk on the show a lot about, strong passwords, two-factor or multi-factor authentication, foundational basics, updating the software on your phone and device and stuff. So besides, the few foundational things, with these changes, what advice do you have for people that, you know, that address the concerns that are coming up about how to protect themselves as an individual or a small business?
Well, you've covered the basics. I'll tell you two things. First thing I'm going to say is that when we go out and do an assessment on a company, because that is where we do most of our work with businesses, we almost always find that the basic security protections are not in place. So businesses aren't doing it, even though you can Google it. You've got it on your show. You just mentioned them. 2FA, what was the other one you mentioned? I can go out and survey 10 businesses, and nine of them are not going to have 2FA where they should, even though it's one of the most basic things.
So their
So
employees aren't having to use two-factor authentication to log in, which means that they're now a weak link. That employee is now a weak link.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And the second problem is that I completely lost my train of thought there. So this will be one of those moments you told me about. Um, oh, okay. I'm ready. The second thing that I see that is the most important is that we just have to stay aware and engaged. So this might not be fun and exciting to think about and talk about all the time, but to your audience, I would just say listen to this show every episode, because even if you're not every time picking up something new, and you may not, what you're doing is you are training your brain to constantly be looking for the threats and be aware of them, because the cyber criminals come up with new stuff. AI is helping them work faster and faster. And the best thing that we can do is just train our brains to always be looking for it. We're wired, biologically, we're wired to trust people and to want to connect with people. And the bad guys use that. They tap into, they hack our brains, they
Mhm.
hack the human behaviors, and that's how they get us. It really isn't even a technology problem if you think about it. The biggest problem is right here. It's right here in our heads.
Between the ears. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and thank you for that plug for the show. And full disclosure, everyone, I didn't pay him to say that.
No, not at all. I champion your cause and everybody that's out there evangelizing this message, because like Jocelyn, I wish I had something more brilliant to say,
No.
but the best advice I can give people is just to stay aware. Just dial in, listen to shows like this, um, look at the news, see what's going on. If you're using AI, use that. Type it in and say, hey, what are the current threats I need to be aware of? And give AI your situation.
Yeah, one thing, a little fun fact, I studied neuroscience and I'm a certified neurosculptor and stuff. But what that means is that I understand how our fight and flight responses
Yeah,
work and how to control them and how to, and just understanding how our brains work that way. One thing that people could use to their advantage, and I've never mentioned this before, is that we also, our brains are hardwired that once we have an encounter with a grizzly bear or learn that grizzly bears are dangerous, or saber-tooth tigers or whatever back in the day, we then are looking for anything that resembles a grizzly bear.
right.
And one thing people aren't doing, to your point, because they're not aware, now, if you've been hacked, you are very
Sure.
aware and you're looking
Yep.
for things. So the problem is you've paid a very high price for that knowledge. And so I think it's great advice for people that if you can start equating, a cybercrime, a suspicious email or text or anything, as though that might be that grizzly bear that your brain is hardwired to protect you from, and your spidey senses should be going off, you're going to be a lot safer because you're going to go into protect mode instead
Right.
of coercion mode, being coerced or scammed. So
Yeah.
a great
And
point.
and if it's okay, I just want to throw a plug in here right now for the elderly. We have to take better care of our aging society. The most heartbreaking thing that happened to me recently, or didn't happen to me, but I witnessed. I was just at the grocery store and I saw this older gentleman on the phone with a look of complete panic. He was distraught, and he was at the Western Union machine,
Oh no.
just and he funneled, I don't know, he wired like $5,000 to whoever was scamming him. And by the time I got over there trying to help him, and it's actually, I have to give credit to my fiance. She's the one that ran over there because she's bolder than I am, and intervened and tried to, but it was too late. However much money he had sent, it was gone, and somebody was on the phone convincing him that they were law enforcement, and that if he didn't wire this money right now, that he was going to jail. They were threatening, the cops are coming right now, they're headed your way, you better get that money sent soon.
Right.
And to this point of the constant education, and I would argue community that we need to build around this.
Right.
um, Somebody needs to be watching out for these people because they are a prime target.
Right. And also helping them understand because it's such a wonderful generation that has grown
Yeah,
up how to work in a society and follow civil, law and order and stuff to make a better society for everybody. But that means that they're also, if they're told this is law enforcement and stuff, they're already conditioned to work with them,
right.
afraid of them. And that's what the cyber criminals are taking full advantage of. And it's such elder abuse at such an extreme level, emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially. And
Yeah, yeah,
so, that's a really good point. We're doing some special things for not only for elderly, but also for the adult children of elderly, because
yeah,
I'm seeing more and more people are coming to me who are between 40 and 60, and their parents who had a pension or some kind of retirement that they're living off the interest, the nest egg is gone. They're
yeah.
just living off the interest.
Past tense, too late, right?
It's gone, just like your Western Union thing. It got
Yeah,
wired. They did that from the same exact thing that you were just describing. And now, not only do they have kids in college or grandkids coming or whatever, but now they've got elderly parents who now are financially dependent on them.
yeah.
And that is heartbreaking, and
It it,
that
it
is a
is.
life change that nobody listening to this would want to go through. So
Yeah, it probably deserves a full episode on its own, but there are definitely some safeguards that need to be put in place to protect them.
yeah, and I will put that out. We're getting some things together to put out of how to help your how to protect your elder.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it happened to my parents not long ago, but they called me, thank God, right?
Yes.
They got on the phone with me and told me what was going on. And I'm just like, hang up, hang up. They were, I'm talking to one while the other was on the phone. And, I think it was my father. I'm like, tell her to hang up. And he's like, okay, yeah, she hung up. And then I could still hear her talking. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Get off the phone with them right now. This is
Right.
nothing good is going to come of this, but it's so hard to tell. These scams are so good.
And they're getting
Um,
better.
and
Yes.
they are getting better. Yeah.
So we do really need to condition ourselves and help educate everybody we know and love and care about to take to just verify everything
Absolutely.
coming in because
Yes.
it could be a scam. And it's kind of, you want your default mode to go from, from trust everybody, but look for suspicious things to not be paranoid. I mean, we know in cybersecurity, everybody who works in cybersecurity is called a paid paranoid for a reason.
Yeah.
But nobody should want to live paranoid all the time, but you do want to live cautious. And there's a big difference between paranoid and cautious. And so if you can live cautious and just verify everything, make sure that you're take those extra 3 beats to think about what you're going to do. So
Right. Yeah.
such a great point you bring up. Thank you for that. You know, um, we did there was something else in your profile that was very interesting, and I think this goes back to what you were saying about your parents, but you also help protect businesses against cyber and IT related lawsuits. And I want to
Yes.
ask, we didn't get a chance to talk about that before, but can you tell us more about that and what it entails?
Yeah. I mean, if you own a business, you're looking at three buckets of threats that you have to protect against. Number one is cybercrime. We beat that one up all the time.
Mhm.
Number two is the government. Unfortunately, we have to protect ourselves from the well-meaning government agencies that are there to promote good cyber hygiene and then fine you And I've even seen it threaten to put people in jail. I don't know that it's actually happened, but the government is definitely there to help us as well. We need to protect against that with through regulatory compliance. And then the final, bucket of salt that goes in our wounds when we get hacked
Mhm.
is that the attorneys are going to come out after us and say, hey, you didn't have the proper protections in place. Therefore, you're negligent and you are now financially liable and responsible for the damages done. So
Oh, yeah.
it's just a triple whammy that, when you look at crime across the board, this is at least the only one I'm aware of where the victim is the one that we prosecute. The
Right.
victim of crime gets prosecuted in cybersecurity. It's crazy.
Right. Well, you bring up a really good point because there are some, wonderful lawyers out there, and I've had the benefit
Yes.
of working with them and doing that. But there are some who are just ambulance chasers. And in this case, they're business ambulance chasers, and their core source of income is looking for opportunities for lawsuits against people they can win against. And they're much more likely to win against a small business than a large corporation. So
Yeah,
they're
right.
it's the same reason hackers target uh,
Hmm.
small businesses more. They're an easier target because they don't have all the defenses and deep pockets of a large corporation. So now you've got attorneys coming after them to be aware of. So what do small businesses need to do? And I say this because even if you're a consumer listening to this, you work with small businesses. Your veterinarian, your tax person, your fill in the blank is a small business. And how secure they are affects any and all information about you that they have. So it's important to know the basics of small business security so that you can protect yourself and also know what questions to ask, services that you're going to be working with. So with that said, Justin, what advice do you have for small businesses to put the basic protections in place? Let's say I'm a small business owner and I say, yeah, but I don't have the time or money to do that. I'll do that when I'm bigger, and then I do.
So if there's a lot to this question, so let me kind of knock them down one at a time. The quick, easy answer to what you said is how do we, as small businesses, protect against lawsuits? And the answer to that is called a POAM, Plan of Action with Milestones. And that just means you identify the framework, the security framework that applies to you, to your business, to your industry.
Right.
And an easy example of that is HIPAA. We hear that all the time in the healthcare industry.
Right.
But most industries have some version of a framework that applies to them. Short of that, the default that I always go to is CIS, which stands for, um, and I'm going to blank on that. Center for Institute Security. Censor, Jesus.
That's okay. We can cut.
Center, yeah, let's cut that out. CIS stands for Center for Internet Security.
Mm-hmm.
And they have what truly are the industry standards for cybersecurity. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a government agency that's breathing down your neck, then default to CIS, but put something in place where if you are sued, you can appear in court and you can say, Your Honor, here's the protections that I put in place. The ones that I couldn't afford are on the roadmap, the plan of action, and they're slated to be put into place in quarter 3 of this year or quarter 1 of next year. But we have done everything that we can reasonably afford to do, and we have a plan of action for everything else.
And those
That
two
right
magic
there,
those two
what's
magic
that?
and those two magic words in legal environments is good faith. You did a good faith effort.
Yeah, right, right. But that's what's going to protect you in a lawsuit is having that paper trail that you're using in an agreed upon set of standards that you're measuring against and strategizing with.
So that's what small businesses should do. And then when you're working with a small business, you can ask them, you can say, so I just filled out a form yesterday for a dental office thing. And one of the things in there, they asked for my social security number. And so what I always do is put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Right.
I know very few cybersecurity people who will actually put their real social security number in something that doesn't require it. It's only using it as a unique tag in a database. That's not worth it. But it
Right.
is worth asking your service, your small business that you're working with, I care very much about, protecting my identity and my privacy. And I want to know what protections do you have in place for your business? And if they give you a blank stare, it's a good opportunity to start business. And hey, refer them to this episode because Justin's
Yes.
awesome. But at the very least, they want to be thinking about it. Because if you're a veterinarian office or a dental office or something, you're not in the business of cybersecurity or IT, so you're not thinking of it as a necessary, but it is to protect your customers. So that's a great
It's a
point.
really easy question that you can ask as a consumer or customer. You can ask the company you're about to do business with, or if you're a company about to do business with an IT consultant who's claiming cybersecurity expertise, it's a really easy question. Just say, "Hey, what cybersecurity framework do you follow?"
That's
And if
awesome.
they can't answer that right off the top of their head, that's your red flag, and you don't really need to know anything else.
Right. And so then you should be very careful about what information you give them. So you
Right.
don't give them your social security number. And I mean, maybe they have your name and your address, but that's already available publicly
Correct.
anyway. So don't give them anything that's not already available on the internet.
Right. Right.
That's great advice. And Justin, I have to ask, we recently had a guest on who was talking about consumer electronics, particularly those with, microphones and, and cameras, and talking about, the surveillance that goes on and the access that a lot of these things have to inside your home or outside your home or your backyard or your family, your kids in the pool. You are a cybersecurity pro and a devoted dad and a drone enthusiast. So please tell us what kind of protections or mindset and approach do you have to how you use your drone and any other, electronics with with those abilities to protect, yourself and your family that others could learn from?
Well, I mean, this is a fun one. You could basically assume you're hacked all the time.
Mm.
If you have cameras up, assume somebody's watching you. I've got this camera that I do all my podcasts and other videos with, and every time I'm sitting here working on my computer, I just kind of look at that thing sideways because I'm like, yeah, I wonder who has access to that I don't know about.
Just because the
Uh,
light's not on doesn't mean you're not being
it
watched.
doesn't mean anything, right? And there's several cases. We had an episode a while back where we were talking about it wasn't Nest. I don't remember which, but it was a major security camera provider who had cloud storage and stuff. And then there was a publicly available website where you could just go and see all of the unsecured camera footage, like live streaming
Right,
stuff.
right.
People who think that they've got these security cameras and really it's just being broadcast out there. So I would just say be careful where you put stuff, especially if it's cloud connected, if it's internet connected. We call it the Internet of Things, which just means anything that is convenient probably is going to be breached in some way, shape, or
I
form.
was
So
thinking of this after the last episode, and I thought we really should call it the Internet of Your Things because everybody
yeah,
can see your things if, with all of those devices. So that is really great advice. I think that's awesome. I know I've seen far more footage of, women getting out of the shower, kids, playing and stuff that was taken from people's, they just had their laptop open or or their
right.
computer has that external. So that's why they make the things that cover the camera or
Yeah.
because not having the light on does not mean anything. If there's a little black dot somewhere, just assume it's on and then either act accordingly or, cover it up or
Or
shut it.
cover it. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, be careful where you put stuff too, because,
Oh, say
if
more
you,
about that. Say more about that.
well, let's say you've got a camera pointed at your swimming pool and you have children back there swimming.
Mhm,
So which kind of creep is hacked into that camera and is watching your kids?
mhm,
Um, do you, and it's tough because everything that is a convenience is always also a security concern.
mhm.
Um, if you're going to do it, then you better find a way to lock it down. And, we can't go into every single way to protect every single device.
Right.
But if you're going to put that stuff up in sensitive areas, get an expert involved. That's just what I would say. Find somebody to help you protect that device, because otherwise you can just about assume, like I've already said, if
Mhm.
if it's connected to the internet, somebody can get access to it.
And your other piece of advice back to that, when you find that as expert, ask them what framework they use.
Correct.
And make
Yes.
sure that just because they're saying they're a cybersecurity person doesn't mean that. And the other thing is you also have to be careful with people like that too. There are so many cases of FBI and stuff, rating IT service people who are they're mild-mannered, technicians during the day, but they're hackers at night selling the information they got off of people's computers and stuff and selling it on the dark web. And so they're just like
Yeah.
just like with every population, It's a bell
Right.
curve. There are good guys, bad guys, and people who are well-meaning and maybe aren't doing all the right things. And you just got to be aware of that you want to protect. This is how you learn how to protect yourself. You ask questions, you learn, and you verify.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
Wow, Justin, you've given us some great advice today. So we want to, ask your small businesses, what framework they're using. If you are a small business, you need to implement the basics, not only to protect, yourself and your business, and to protect your customers or clients, and to protect yourself from a lawsuit. That's, you really brought up some things there. And looking at cameras in devices. Yeah, we get numb to what has cameras anymore. It'd be great. Everybody should just do an audit of what things do you have with cameras in them that you don't even think about.
And microphones.
And
Yeah.
microphones, yes. That's great. So your laptop, your phone, your drone, your Roomba.
I was going to say, I didn't know if you'd heard about that one when they were
Yeah.
training the Roombas. They take video and then they send it off to people to just sit there and go and tag it as, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is stairs, this is a chair, this is a table. And some of those videos got leaked out and some of that wasn't very good.
Yeah, that's the training from the companies themselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well, they outsourced it, right, to who knows where, and those employees were finding some entertaining video and posting them up online, and it might be you going to the bathroom,
right.
and your
So
vacuum comes up and starts talking to you.
yeah. So if your Roomba is going and you go to the bathroom or take a shower, close the door.
Yeah.
Treat anything with a camera like it's a human being that can see and hear.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah, great advice. Awesome. Justin, thank you so much. So people who are interested in learning about your services for their small business, where should they go?
PhoenixITadvisors.com. A little bit long URL, but that's where they go.
That's perfect. And where we have posts, we will pop that in as well. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much for your time, your great advice, and thank you for your service keeping all of us safer during these very interesting times of
Well,
cybercrime.
right back at you. I love your show. I've listened to a few episodes and I'm going to keep listening. There's some pretty cool stuff on there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. All
Thanks,
right.
Jocelyn.
So everybody, this was another episode. And if this was helpful and you see things in here that could help others, please like, subscribe, share it with anybody. That helps us reach more people and help more people stay safe. And so until next time, stay safe out there.